Hi everybody, this is Yona Brindis streaming live on Instagram for the weekly energy update for energetically sensitives and empaths all around the world, assisting you guys with giving you a heads up of what these current energies are like, how they affect you, and what you can do. So there's a second publication every week. I just want to clarify this because sometimes people get confused. For our Patreon subscribers and Heart Warriors only, once in a while I publish it, and I did last week in the Energy Tips week 19 with a third chakra special. So everything you need to know about what it feels like to get attacked in your third chakra, or a lime green attack as I called it. So if you haven't watched this yet, then go to my YouTube channel and find out what I have to say about working with energies that are coming in from the outside, but how they trigger things in you, and how as soon as you latch on to them, how it then becomes yours. So let's look at the energies coming in here for this next week without any further ado. Okay, so you see the energy barometer is on yellow-green, hooray! And that means that the intensity of what we as empaths, as energetically sensitives, have experienced here in those last weeks is going down a bit. We can feel a little bit of relief, but it's something that you need to watch out for, because there's certain conditions that you need in order to actually hold this place, okay, to not just see yourselves at the will or the effect of outer energetic stuff that is coming in, but also to learn how to become your own energy manager, and to be a little more in charge of how this affects you emotionally, physically, in your relationships, spiritually, and so forth. I've called the energy update for this week checks and balances, and of course, as always, I always hint a little bit at things that are going through our collective. If you live in the United States, you know what I'm referring to. There is this grounding effect right now of what is right, what is true, what should prevail. And in our personal lives, if you just take this as a mirror, okay, so the things that are going on in politics, the things that are going on in the world, they are just mirrors of energetic I would say phenomena that we all experience in the small as below, as above. And so you're going to have to find out where your center point is in here. And if you can, then this next week can actually be really, really nice. So we have a really nice influx of heart centering energies, of harmonizing energies, of energies that want to, go into the checks and balances of divine nature, of divine creation. And I'm mentioning this on purpose because there is a part in that guides us to look for solutions elsewhere, at different places that we are looking at. So where are we looking for solutions when we feel that things are challenging, when we feel that change is coming? Well, the first instinct is to go into like, oh my God, no, I don't want change, or oh my God, this is scary, I don't know this, this is something that forces me to do something differently, and I'm afraid of that. There's an unknown aspect to this, and this is why I talked so much about the rigidity here in these last couple of weeks, because underneath a lot of our sort of instinctive reactions is primarily conditioned mindsets, and those mindsets, they sound kind of like if this then, okay, and this is something that comes from our third chakra. This is something that comes from our ego, from our understanding of self and how we relate to other things. The problem with that is that it doesn't actually bring in the aspect that refers to our essence, that refers to who we truly are. And so in times where our fourth chakra, our heart, wants to expand, and this is such a time, this next week is such a week where your heart wants to expand, all right, then you have to allow yourself to go into the feeling of things and not just what it looks like. What it looks like, how you perceive truth, how you perceive the things that are going on around you are determined by your energetic state and your conditioned belief sets and, your personal experiences. And so it's mostly referring to the past. It can only really take the past experiences and then interpolate what this might mean for the future. And so what you're going to experience here is that you're going to feel a surge coming from within, asking you to feel into this, not to figure it out, but to feel it out. So that's one of these characteristics of fourth chakra expansion, is that you'll notice that there is a different truth, a different reality if you center in your heart and if you see things based on your inner truth rather than what was conditioned or what was learned or what you've conformed by. All right. And so this next week, guys, is going to be a wonderful opportunity for all of you truth seekers and awakening people to really practice this, how to tune into your heart, how to sit things out, how to not fall for your fear, how to go into this place of expansion in the now, and therefore becoming able to witness everything, but without being pulled into it. There'll be some tests and some challenges here. So first of all, and I point this out quite frequently, that the collective, as a sort of a mainstream, as the majority of people out there, as like 8 or 9 out of 10 people, they don't have that practice. They don't have the understanding and the context of why they're going through change. But you, just due to the fact that you're listening here and that you're interested in consciousness and true self and, heart centering and so forth, already have that inner guidance in you. And that guidance is telling you to rely on, your inner perception rather than sort of what is storming in from the outside. And this is why it's so important to look at collective weather conditions. This is why I've been doing this here for years, because when you look at outer conditions, it becomes a lot more obvious for you what actually is triggering you at a certain time. And your ability to not have this latch on has a lot to do with your heart chakra, with how well you can sort of sit in your own center. The more off-center you become, and the third chakra is a major player in getting us off-center. It's our ego, that tells us, no, I've got to have it my way. No, I've got to be right. No, this is how I want it. No, this is the right way. Or, I have to perform in a certain way and so forth. This puts us off-center. And that's why we often become so susceptible to outer stuff that is happening, like the things that are going on here in the world right now, because we are off-center to begin with, So until, say, the majority of the people on this planet are able to center themselves and therefore see through things that are coming in from the outside, until that is the case, those of us who have been, awakening to this without asking for it, we often feel this confliction here between our inner guidance and what is going on the outside. And so this needs to be harmonized. So next week is a week that allows you to understand better what the difference is between figuring things out and feeling things out. But you have to allow yourself to do this. You have to allow yourself to go with the flow without feeling the need to overreact. There are some things that can come in next week that are awesome, where you feel like, oh my God, I've got it. I got the idea. It's brilliant, it's genius, the energy that is coming in next week. But you won't be able to translate it. You won't be able to utilize it if you are not feeling it from within your own essence. So one of the keywords here to practice next week is working with your true self. Now, physically, those of you who've had issues with migraines and all that in the past weeks or two, this is going to get a lot better. There's going to be a release and you're going to feel better. The only thing, though, that I want to let you know is that this release of energies has to happen through all your systems, okay? And one of the systems that I see challenged in this next week is your lymphatic system. So my energy tips for the Patreons later, they'll consist of tips in regards to how to let go, these trauma energies, these degradation energies, injustice, victim energies, and so forth that we've been feeling here for these last 2 weeks, how to let them go, how to release them out of our cell memory. So this is where energy work comes in, because it gives us other ways to do deep clearing and to do, to build a form of resilience, emotional resilience, energetic resilience, physical resilience, okay? And your lymphatic system, guys, it's widely underrated, but it's at the core, it's at the essence of your ability to stay in your center, to stay in your power, not in your force. And force is what people normally use when it gets challenging. And where do you think force comes from? It's generated in your third chakra. It's generated, in your willpower. But it also makes you rigid. It also makes you tend to go into control. And that will be detrimental here for this next week. So I know that many of you have already feeling this, this sort of weird calm, to be able to sit in your heart and to observe, some of the insanity that is going on around you, to even observe your own insane reactions. And therefore, the trick here is to hold this. See, when you really learn to understand your ego and what it does to you on a physical, emotional, mental, spiritual level, then you understand that it's actually quite simple. You just need to find your essence. You need to find your priorities, your values, that which you are. And that which you are is generated in your heart, not in your third chakra. It's not hard work. You don't have to do anything to be who you are. The tiger or the bird, they don't have to pretend being a tiger or a bird. They just have to be who they are. They just have to become the best they can be at what they are. And so for most of us, it's all it's all about getting ourselves out of the way. And when I say ourselves, really what I'm referring to is our ego. So ego has self-destruct, and you can observe this on the political scene here very clearly this week. You can sit this one out, guys. And thank you, Herbal Goddess, for commenting here. And by the way, I had these technical issues in the beginning, but the reason why I do this live is for you to comment and for you to share and for you to ask questions too, but to also help another, like what it is that works for you. Herbal Goddess is commenting here that yes, lymphatic system is the master water mover, energy, stimulus, and so forth, because it regulates really how energies travel through our system. So that we have the individual chakras, those are the relay stations, if you will, the regulators of individual or particular clusters of energies. But the lymphatic system, and with it, things like our water household and so forth, they regulate the overall flow. Okay, and it doesn't matter how much you meditate and how, spiritual you are, if your lymphatic system is clogged up. And there are some typical signs of that, like cellulitis, for instance, or, sort of feeling bloated, feeling sort of blown up in your face and so forth. Those are usually signs that the transport, the release aspect of your energy isn't functioning well. You're storing too many toxins. That's why I talked about toxicity last week. Yes, yeah, and getting yourself out of the way, that is not as easy as it sounds. It's simple, but it's not easy. And why is that? Because we've been conditioned, and part of that is also the actual function of our ego. The function of our ego is to make us survive, but it's very deceptive in that way, because it can seduce us into thinking, if I just do this, then I have a better edge of surviving, if I can just, pretend I'm better than I am or different than I am, that can up my chances of whatever, winning, of getting the guy, or of landing a big business deal, or, succeeding in whatever it is. That's the seduction of the ego, okay? And so getting ourselves out of the way often also means getting all these things that we have believed in for so long out of the way. It also means be willing to drop some of our illusions, because, see, the problem with change is that the ego only really registers change on the level of, oh my God, the unknown, okay? And many of us have had very toxic environments that we grew up in, or that we are in right now, and that means that we have been desensitized to a lot of these things. And guess what your ego concludes? These really high thresholds of pain, that you have developed, your screwed sense of what is normal and what is true and what is right, has basically coerced you into accepting chaos and toxicity and negativity as normal. And that is one of the biggest seductions of the ego. It's the chaos as planned syndrome. Okay, so if you tell yourself, oh, this is going to be a big disaster, this is going to be super chaotic, blah blah blah, and then it turns out to be, your ego part in you says, I knew it, this would, and this is your coping way. But that is not based on truth, and that is not based on your heart. That actually is what victimizes you, not the fact that you could see all the negativity in the world that would make you fail. No, it is that you've actually energized the chaos, you've actually energized the negativity in you, and therefore you were more likely to run into it. So the seduction of the ego also entails that you are unable to recognize when you are actually supporting or enabling something that is intrinsically bad for you, or toxic for you, or holding you away from actually going where you want to go. And the only guidance that can do this for you is your heart. It can set that straight, and you can feel it. It's a physical sensation, really. Yes, how cool is that to realize that, and to learn how to trust in that part. Yes, thank you for commenting. And also how the outcomes become so different from how we, in our pessimism, more or less, in the pessimism of our ego. Because, see, the ego only feels comfortable with what it can control. And that's the problem. Control is toxic because, it restricts your heart. It makes you having to pump in a lot of energy. It makes you having to maintain this all the time. It makes you having to force things. And that's why you guys are all so tired. That's why you guys all tired out and get drained, because you're trying to force it. Okay? When you know what your essence is, when you know what your heart is telling you, when you can allow yourself to feel things out instead of figuring them out, that's when you realize that it's actually effortless. You just have to be the best in what you already are. Okay, guys, this concludes the energy update here for this next week. I'm wishing you a wonderful week. Tune into what, even your suffering, your pain, and so forth, what this is trying to tell you. What is the information that's underneath that? And remember that resilience comes from walking the talk, from facing it, from going through. And the giveaway this week is a participation in a big intensive that we have. It's a 24-hour intensive, and I call it intensive because it's very intense. It's called Ego Healing, and it consists of 3 remote energy sessions. That's not for the faint-hearted, guys. If you're afraid that things get triggered in you, then do not try to participate in this giveaway, because that's the whole purpose of it. Okay, the purpose of the Ego Healing Intensive, with 3 sessions, we're going to go into shadow clearing, we're going to go into trauma healing, we're going to go into inner child integration, is to face it. And if you want to win one of these 2 tickets, you on Instagram here are privileged because nobody else is competing with you, then type in, I am no longer afraid to face my ego. I am no longer afraid to face my ego. That can get you 1 out of 2 tickets for this upcoming intensives, 3 sessions every 12 hours, and it's going to be intense. Yes, and please don't complain, because the whole point of it is to face the ego. All right. Wonderful, guys. Thank you for spending your time here with me. I apologize for the beginning issues with Facebook, something I have to resolve in a different way, I guess. And I'm wishing you a wonderful week. Hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.